Podcast. We've got an exciting guest to kick off the morning with you guys. Lindsey McFadden is a premier franchise marketing executive and the chief marketing officer of Stretch Zone, the world's largest franchising network specializing in practitioner-assisted stretching. Transitioning from a successful career as an independent corporate marketing consultant, Lindsey stepped into corporate leadership to help guide Stretch Zone's monumental scale. Under her strategic marketing direction, the brand experienced incredible hypergrowth, opening over 250 units in a brief 3-year window while maintaining a perfect record of 0 studio closures. An advocate for unit-level economics, Lindsey treats marketing not as a simple corporate cost center, but as a driving force directly tied to local operator profitability. She's a leading voice on balancing localized customization with global brand consistency and has positioned Stretch Zone at the absolute forefront of the modern wellness boom. Lindsey, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate you spending some time with us in the audience today.
Well, thanks for having me. And that's a hell of an intro. Thank you very much.
Let's go. All right. Maybe you can contextualize, your background a little bit. So tell us a little bit about, where'd you grow up? Where'd you study? And how'd you get into the marketing world?
Born and raised in New Jersey before my family relocated to Florida for my dad's job. So did middle school and high school in Florida. Went to Florida State for undergrad, went in with a bunch of credits, decided I didn't want to graduate early. I wanted to stay around. Who wants to leave college early? So did a dual MBA program and just loved my time there. Go Noles. And since then, I've been back in South Florida in different career roles. I wanted, fun fact, I started as an English major. I thought that's what I wanted to do, and then realized quickly, no. What I loved about marketing was kind of the psychology behind it. How are we positioning and advertising and really bringing products to market and services and what resonates with the consumer? And I was always really drawn to kind of the analytical side of marketing. So that's here how I'm here. My first role was in a multi-unit concept, home healthcare. It was corporate owned, not franchised. But then I kind of got such a liking for the multi-unit space because to me, it's like a puzzle. How do you make the same thing work in vastly different markets with different clientele and different demographics, but still ensure the same kind of level of service and product quality? And so I've kind of spent the bulk of my career trying to answer that question for different brands.
That's awesome. So when did you kind of get into the world of franchise marketing?
It's probably been 15 years now. And it's so interesting because with franchisees, they're such an asset to us and bring so much experience and different various backgrounds that we can also leverage and learn from too at the corporate level. We have a really awesome franchise advisory committee here at Stretch Zone that we leverage and work really closely with. But yeah, it's been about 15 years working with franchisees, and I've learned so much from our franchisees specifically.
I can imagine. What were you always in the kind of the fitness wellness side, or had you worked in other categories of franchise models?
I worked for a United Franchise Group years ago for a brand called Signorama. So commercial signage, not exactly wellness, but that sign knowledge, ironically, has served me so well through the rest of my career, just understanding the different opportunities with signage. But other than that, always focused on lifestyle or health and wellness brands.
Okay, awesome. Well, when did Stretch Zone come knocking, and why did you think it would be a fun, exciting opportunity to jump in from, I know I mentioned in your bio that you had taken some time to do the consulting thing. I don't know if you're doing the fractional CMO thing, but go ahead.
Yes. So when I was consulting, Stretch Zone was actually one of the clients of the firm I was with.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, when I was introduced to Stretch Zone originally, it was the fall of 2019, and there was no internal marketing headcount here. And so we kind of came in as an outside agency of record and started working with the team here. And as Stretch Zone had such explosive growth, so did our kind of agency retainer with the team. And so over the years, that grew and grew. And then I got an opportunity to come in-house and build the team myself. Stretch Zone had reached about 200 and some odd locations. And we decided, now is where we really need those functions in-house. So I was really excited to come on the other side. And so I've been in this seat for about 3.5 years, building my team in-house.
Amazing. Let's start a little bit with the discipline. So I don't know if everybody is familiar with assisted stretching as kind of a modality. So can you tell us a little bit about the modality? I think I don't know what the insight was in kind of launching a dedicated kind of service around this, but you always think about kind of the high-end gyms where there are personal trainers that are working out with somebody and they're stretching them on the floor, and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing, but that probably costs a lot of money. I'd be curious, what was kind of the product insight that developed this modality, and why did you guys jump in and think it would be an interesting model for franchise expansion?
Yep. So our founder, Jordan Gold, he really started it because he had a need. His grandfather was basically bedridden from complications of diabetes. And so he started he had an anatomy physiology background, personal trainer. And so he started stretching his grandfather every day. And over the course of a year, he went from, being immobile to a walker to a cane to being able, to dance at his cousin's wedding. That's kind of like the Reader's Digest version of our founder story. And so once he understood the power of stretching, he said, we need to find a way to bring this to the masses. And franchising was that vehicle. We had about 10 or 12 corporate locations originally about 10 years ago, and then that's when we started franchising originally in 2017. And since then we have been growing really, really quickly. But about the modality, to what you just said, everybody tells you should stretch. You should stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Your doctor, your personal trainer, your physical therapist, everybody knows the benefits of stretching. The challenge is people never make the time for it, or they don't really know how to do it. And so what makes Stretch Zone different is really two main things. One is that we have a patented strapping system. So in our studios, which are all open air and open space, typically have about 5 or 6 tables in there. And the tool that we have is this patented strapping system. So our practitioners, it's a one-on-one service, a la personal training. There's no group classes or anything. They take you through a series of protocols of different stretches. And with this patented strapping system, it helps to position, stabilize, and isolate your muscles. So it gives an extra set of hands really to our practitioners. Because if you're trying to stretch your hamstring, for example, when you start reaching that tension point, your other leg will start to give because it's trying to compensate. But if that is positioned and isolated with the straps, then the practitioner has an extra set of hands to really be able to manipulate and ensure the deepest and safest stretch. So that's kind of number one. And number two is we're a protocol-driven service. So we have specific stretches that we do in a certain sequence based on what your need is or what you're coming for. Whether you're a golfer or a runner or somebody that just has mobility issues, we can kind of assess that through an initial stretch. And then we put together a plan of what protocols we're going to go through to help improve your range of motion.
I love it. So, would you say that Stretch Zone is a place that people come to for kind of like an ongoing, like something that they would rotate into their ongoing wellness, curriculum, for a lack of a better word? Like, we talked a little bit off camera about Carlsbad and Encinitas, and this is kind of like a mecca for wellness. Like, if you drive down my street, there's a place where you can get NAD and red light therapy and cryo and compression socks and, IV drips. And then you go across the street to the Bonds and there's a cold plunge sauna, breathwork studio, and there's an Orange Theory in that lot. I mean, like, it's really, you can kind of like throw a stone and find a lot of like wellness opportunities, at least in Southern California, especially in San Diego. I'd be curious, like, do people go to Stretch Zone because they want to, have this be like a continual part of like their wellness journey, or are they going because like the chiropractor maybe, where they have a certain issue that they want to work on and they want to work through it? Be curious, kind of like, what are some of the use cases that people kind of first seek out your brand?
Yeah, I think the answer is kind of all the above, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see people that come in because they're recovering from an injury, perhaps, or their PT or their chiropractic that insurance has covered has kind of run out, and they're looking for a continuum of care. So we definitely see a component of our membership base is focused on recovery from a specific thing. We also see it as a supplement for just people that are training in general,
Mm,
warriors, just athletes. I think that there's some really big name athletes over the past, say, decade or so that have really brought a focus to wellness and recovery as part of their regimen for activity. So it's not just about lifting heavy and throwing around weights in a gym. It's how are you recovering from that? So we see people that are kind of continuous with their program. And then truthfully, we have a lot of people that even an aging population, needs help tying their shoes, right? With regular
mm.
stretching and the mobility, it's just the everyday tasks that this allows them to do. So we actually shifted about 2 years ago to have a membership offering, and kind of the thought process behind that is that it is a regular part of your everyday life. And with our sessions, they kind of accrue and they don't expire as long as your membership's active, because maybe you want to come twice a week now, and then maybe you need a few weeks off, and then maybe you want to come for hour-long sessions instead. So we've kind of tried to meet the consumer where they are. We kind of heard loud and clear where we need to be as a brand, and we've tried to make our service really accessible, no matter where you are physically in your journey of physical fitness, but also in a way that works for your lifestyle.
I love that. I think pricing elasticity is probably one of the most important components of wellness these days, or gyms, or because, people want to do, there's, what they call the fitness explorer, the wellness explorer, right? They're on ClassPass, they're on Mind Body doing one-off, sample sessions at a lot of places. They get bored. They like to try different things. They like to switch up their routine. They change maybe the sports that they like to play or the ways that they like to exercise based on seasonality. How hot is it? How cold is it? Is it raining? Do I need to go into the gym? Can I do something at home? Peloton and some of these brands that give people an extra option to like not leave their house. So I'd be curious, how were you intentional about thinking about the idea of membership, credit bases? Are you guys plugging into some of these third-party ecosystems like ClassPass and Mind Body in order to, get people through the door? Give me some thoughts around the pricing models and, like you said, really trying to think about that customization so you can meet people who want to, come in all the time, or maybe people who just want to buy a ClassPass chunk of credits and then come use them over a period of time at their own discretion.
Yeah, so I think when we the world has changed, right? You're not really in long-term contracts other than my mortgage with really anything, right? And so I think that understanding this optionality of where the consumer wants to be, and even though we do have a membership option, it's a month-to-month membership, right? 30 days notice to cancel, and then your sessions, any unused sessions, are good for 90 days, right? So we want to make sure that you have the availability to really maximize the service. We're not in the gotcha business, but our kind of always offer is that your first stretch is free. And we do that because we believe that until you experience the service yourself, you can't really assign value to it. So if I told you you're going to get a one-on-one stretch and I told you it was $50 or $150, is that a good deal? You don't know, because you don't really know our product and our service until you've experienced it. So I think that as it pertains to meeting the consumer where they are, having that education piece be free, meaning your first full stretch, it's not like a mini 5-minute thing. It's a full experience so that you can understand what it is. That helps us assign value to the service. And then selling, whether you want to come twice a month or 3 times a week, having different packages that meet the consumer where they are. This is not a one size fits all. You buy this, like a lot of gyms, this is the price, come once, come every day, come never. We really, our goal is not to just sell people a bunch of sessions. Our goal is to have members that are engaged in a way that works for their lifestyle. So having different package options has really been where we see the most success. We're not currently on ClassPass, mainly because we're not a class basis. We're a one-on-one personal service. And that's a little bit more challenging, although we've definitely had some interesting conversations about that over the recent months. But right now, we're really just focused on our package and membership offerings as they stand.
Love it. In a lot of ways, you're helping define a new wellness vertical. So you're not just marketing your brand and the packaging, et cetera, but you're really, trying to evangelize a new modality, the benefits of the value proposition. This modality maybe didn't even exist in the mainstream conscious a decade ago. As a marketer, how do you handle the unique challenge of educating the general public on a new wellness category rather than just trying to capture existing demand through lower funnel opportunities like search, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's actually, that was one of the hardest things when I first came into the brand, even in the consulting capacity, was that it was so unknown that people didn't know what we were selling and they didn't understand it. Now, thanks a lot to competition and just other brands, and I think a really renewed focus on wellness in general, as you mentioned, all these different opportunities of cryo and red light therapy and everything, the consumer has so much more of an awareness. What we've done is we've tried to just answer pre-AI responses, answer the
Mm,
questions like, how do I help my lower back pain? And really just showing up there in a really organic way was kind of the primary way. And then what we actually did is last year we conducted a research study to prove the efficacy of our method and our stretching, because we wanted to understand it's not just, oh, it feels good. We have anecdotal testimonials for years of how Stretch Zone changed my life, but to understand that now we have 16 tier one claims that we can make tied to specifically Stretch Zone, not just stretching in general, but how our strapping system and our protocols really achieve gains in range of motion and energy and sleep quality, right? I think people are not just looking for a prescription to sleep better. If there's a
yeah,
natural and holistic way by stretching my body and releasing tension that will calm my sciatica or whatever it is that can help me sleep better, people are looking for those things. So I think the real education piece from our side has just been a ton of content generation, trying to answer the questions that we know people come to Stretch Zone looking to solve. And so by leading with that, it's not, 10 reasons why you need practitioner-assisted stretching. If you don't know what practitioner-assisted stretching means, you don't care about the 10 reasons. What you want to understand is, how can I sleep better by keeping my sciatica at bay? Let me help you.
totally. I love that. Why is the franchise model generally the best way to grow a wellness business or a fitness business? It seems like those are where you encounter franchises most often, maybe QSR restaurants and a few others, but definitely in fitness businesses or wellness businesses. Is it the unit economics of renting space and equipment? Why does the franchise model kind of seem to be the right model for this industry?
I mean, it's really easy to replicate, right? So many
Mm,
people, especially Americans, we're currently only in Canada as an outside of the US locations right now. But I think so many people want to be their own business owner, and they have that entrepreneurial spirit, the true American dream. And franchising is a great vehicle to make that easy, because you don't have to figure out creating your own website and your logo and all the business systems and tools and processes. By tapping into an infrastructure that already exists that is really solid, it's such an easy button to kickstart an entrepreneurial career. And I think for us specifically, you mentioned QSR. Stretch Zone is an exceedingly simple business. We do one thing,
mm.
one thing only. We stretch people. There's no moving inventory. There's no waste and spoilage of food product. There's no dynamic pricing for goods and services, right? It's one thing and one thing only. And so by having the infrastructure like business in a box that franchising provides, we help you. We have a director of real estate that gets you, your location and a great lease. And other than that, kind of everything shows up, paint, carpet, set up the tables, and you're ready to go. So I think that we see so many first-time entrepreneurs, specifically as Stretch Zone owners, because of the simplicity of the business. But then also, there's so many synergies in a market that 93% of our owners are multi-unit owners. So the average person has about 3 locations, some as many as 25, some have 12, 15. But it's a really great opportunity for entrepreneurs to get that experience as business ownership without all of the risk and upfront work of creating something from scratch.
I love it. What are the types of attributes that you look for in a potential franchisee? Are there characteristics or things about their background, or just a general, insight that helps ensure, you stay on that 250 no closure success rate? What are you looking for when courting franchisees and or marketing to them?
Yeah, I think that we want people that have a passion for what they're doing, whether because your goal is to really run your store, have a great culture, have a great team that's going to provide a great service to the members. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking for somebody that has entrepreneurial spirit, that wants to really lead and grow a team. And then the commonality between all of them is that there's a passion for helping people, right? Because what we're doing at StretchZone really changes lives, at the risk of sounding overly dramatic. There's plenty of people, you can make a lot more money probably doing some other stuff, but the common thread that we see through a lot of our owners is that they've been impacted by the service in some ways. We've had franchise owners that, they were going to have back surgery, but they tried StretchZone and were able to not have back surgery and have recovery. And so there's a deep passion, I think, for helping people and for providing a service to the community that you can't really make up. We also look for people that are a pillar of their community. Who's going to be involved, because those are our most successful stores, are the ones that the owner is actively involved, even if it's in other businesses, but part of the community, because people do business with people that they like. And building a great team and having a great culture to provide a great service, I mean, it all comes down to the owner. So that's kind of how we look at people that come to us. For probably the first 7 years, we never even advertised, if I'm being honest, in terms of franchise sales. It was all organic from within our network and referrals, which is phenomenal. But now we've looked to come into some strategic new markets and as well as international. That's kind of how we're guiding our advertising initiatives there.
I love it. Let's talk about how the marketing works from a co-op perspective. So do you guys have one national or global at this point brand campaign? Do you have regional co-ops that kind of customize the message based on kind of the look and feel of that region? Do you have kind of performance driven, things to drive trial at the store, or maybe like a franchise cluster level? Like how do you organize your marketing co-ops, and how are they supported, and who's responsible for what from corporate down to the franchise owner?
All the above kind of is the answer. And that's we do have a national media fund that is 2%, which is fairly standard in this space. And that goes to kind of our what I say, our global, I mean, like our company-wide initiatives that drive ultimately leads through the franchisee doors. We do have a required monthly spend that franchisees are required to spend in market. So in whatever city they're in for local activities, whether that is digital ads, sponsorships, mailers, whatever they want to do. And then we do have a level of co-ops in markets where we have a high concentration. So in certain markets where we have a lot of owners that have worked together, South Florida being one, Atlanta, in Texas, where we have a bunch of clusters of stores, we have the owners that have worked together on different kind of regional initiatives, whether those are TV commercials, radio spots. We, from a corporate standpoint, we support those in terms of creative and assets and really execution, contract negotiation. But the local owners work together. We have some DFW owners that do a lot. There's a lot of big business based out of DFW that do a lot of great corporate wellness initiatives that work together there. So I think the goal of how we look at it is that we're trying to provide a really steady top-down drip of leads and awareness really for the stores. And then it's kind of, we pass the baton to them to recognize that and really enhance it at the local level.
Yeah, they've got to capture it and make sure that they're converting and kind of translating it to their regions that, excuse me, almost sneezed. To basically giving the franchise or the market owners kind of the ability to customize, but really capitalize on the demand that you guys are pushing downstream.
And I think that because of what we do is so personal, you're not just getting a standardized cup of coffee or something at a drive-through, that being a fabric of the community is so important. I try to say all the time, like 80-20, 80% of everything we do should be the same. And StretchZone, that's why you buy into a franchise. That's for that brand strength and that brand equity. But also the 20%, it needs to speak to your local market. There's very different marketing in Southern California than there is in Central Texas, for example. And our local owners in Texas have y'all in their ads. We don't say that here in South Florida, right? But we want to make sure that it fits the market and that it resonates with the consumer.
I love that. All right. Under your marketing leadership, we've talked a little bit about how you guys have scaled to more than 250 units in 3 years, and all while maintaining that unprecedented record of zero studio closures. Um, how do you scale your marketing asset pipelines quickly enough so that a new studio in a small market feels just as supported as the legacy flagship location? What is the marketing burst, if you will, for a new opening in a new owner or a new market?
We handle what we call our kind of grand opening procedure in-house. I have an awesome person on my team that manages that entirely. And so we have a very kind of structured process from the second, truthfully, that you sign your franchise agreement through opening your doors. From a marketing specific perspective, we have a very outlined pre-opening cadence to then grand opening, what we call the first month, then to ramp, which is really months 1 to 5. And so we have a pretty solid outline of that content, that cadence, and what works. We're at, I believe, 427 locations open currently. So we've got a lot of data to kind of look back and see what's worked and to optimize that. So we have a fairly structured content cadence from the pre-opening to the new open to the ramp phase. And then we really pivot to understand, based on market, based on seasonality, our Minnesota locations in January have different creative than us in South Florida when every golf tournament and outside sport is happening, when it's, negative 30 or whatever they're dealing with up there. We have a whole host of ads around like snow shoveling and back pain from that resonates in that market. So I think we've just really tried to build out our content library over the years to meet those different needs. And from a grand opening perspective, we're really prescriptive with what we do and when, because we know what works.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of localization efforts and really customizing creative to speak to the particular markets that the franchisees are in.
Yep.
You're heavily passionate about tying all marketing initiatives directly to unit level economics. How do you combat the common franchise friction where local operators can sometimes view corporate marketing as a tax rather than a strategic tool? How do you articulate and make sure that they see the value that's being driven through the marketing initiatives and they can feel good about their investment?
I think data transparency is really important. We have a exceedingly transparent scorecard that is available to the entire network, so they can see every single KPI and metric and how they're performing versus the rest of the system, as well as broken down by cohort. And so I think there's real trust when there's transparency. So if I can show you exactly what you're getting for what you're doing and what it's then resulting for you back to the ROI, that's a great story. People don't want to just operate on feelings and vibes. They want to understand, okay, I need to do this because if I do this, it's going to get me that. And being able to be that specific in terms of ROI and understanding really what that means for the business has been a huge game changer. We know exactly when we need to launch ads pre-opening. We know exactly how many we need to have in terms of leads pre-opening for a store to be in the top quadrant within 6 months. So we're very prescriptive with that. And by really walking them through that data, it's very easy to then show that this is not just a tax, it's really an investment in your business. It takes money to make money, and being able to show that with just case studies and data over now 400 and some odd locations is really powerful.
I love that. You've noted that a lot of the magic of the franchise marketing happens when you balance that global brand consistency with a local customization. Where do you draw the line on what franchises can customize in their marketing and what needs to be strictly dictated by the corporate guidelines?
Oof, that's a daily struggle. ChatGPT has really created a new era of issues there for us. I mean, AI is so helpful in so many ways, but now, unfortunately, every single one of our owners fancies themselves a graphic designer with chat. So it's been a challenge, and I think part of it is really just down to education. We have monthly system-wide calls and kind of biweekly trainings, and we just share the why behind it, right? Sometimes we kind of poke fun. People understand real examples. So, we had some AI images where it looked like somebody's leg was broken on a table. That's not great for business, guys. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
But then I tell my team, if people are doing this, it's because they're looking for something that we're not providing them. So instead of just making fun of this joke, because it is exactly that, how do we fix it? How do we meet them where we are? How do we better serve them and scratch the itch? Because they're not doing this for fun. They're doing it because they think they need something. So either we have to do a better job of showing them and explaining that we have this and here's how you can access it, or maybe we're missing something and we need to invest in making it available. So we try.
Around 43% of Stretch Zone's franchise network is composed of female business owners. How does having a highly diversified franchise network help you shape your corporate storytelling, messaging, and internal validation strategies?
Yeah, I think that we have an exceedingly diverse franchise base, more than any other brand I've been exposed to, um, from gender to race to age. We have franchisees in their 20s, franchisees in their 80s, and everywhere in between.
Wow.
Stretch Zone is an exceedingly diverse group of owners, and now it's just kind of happened organically. And I think it's phenomenal because all those different backgrounds bring a different perspective and a different history and a different culture and a different just take on the world. And so I have learned so much from our franchisees because they represent such broad and diverse backgrounds. We have people that have worked for, Fortune 100 companies to people who they didn't graduate college and they're the first person in their family to own a business. And so that's such a broad spectrum of background and experience. I just learn from it every day. I think that we try to tell those stories and give those people opportunities to really share their story, because that's what makes business ownership and franchising so special, is that you can reach such a broad demographic.
Totally. The world is currently obsessed with AI. We talked a little bit about how your franchisees owners now, are using some of these tools and consider themselves, kind of armchair creatives. But you're also making a bet that success in the current marketing world relies entirely on physical, genuine customer connection. In a loud digital landscape, how does Stretch Zone cut through the feed and create an analog community-driven experience that is really tied to people versus, the kind of the noise of social and, digital, and people wanting to kind of get offline and have these in-person moments?
I mean, I say this all the time when we have franchisee training. People want to interact before they transact. We're not a cheap transactional thing. We're not selling $10 black t-shirts online, right? We're helping people and we're healing people. And because what we do is physical and hands-on and face-to-face, we will always be a very personal business and a personal service. We are not super, because of that, we're not super technical with what we offer, because we're a hands-on personal service, right? I also think that the pendulum swung really far with this digital, everything becoming digital, right? And people managing KPIs to the penny of all these different attribution models, and God, what are we doing here, right? Ability to accept new members in our studios? Yes. Are we staffed properly? Yes. Now let's talk about education and awareness of our product and service and get people in. And most of our members come once or twice a week. And so when you think about that, there's very few places you go for a one-on-one barbershop kind of mentality. It becomes a little home away from home. These people are very close with their practitioners. They talk to them every week, twice a week sometimes. And so having studios that feel warm and welcoming and inviting, and creating that culture amongst the practitioners in the studio, is really paramount, because people want to go to places where they feel good. And so while our stretching helps you feel good, you also want to be in a great place. So our studios are not overly clinical, and they're also not very spa-like where you're in private spaces. They're open, they're community. And because you're a hub of a community, I think that just kind of translates into the people that we get as members, because they want that experience as well.
You've also built out a referral network strategy, relying heavily on referral partnerships with local doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors. How do your digital brand marketing efforts help local owners build and maintain those critical face-to-face medical B2B relationships in their home territories? And how can you kind of train for that networking effect to help your franchisees figure out where are the areas and organizations that they could get involved in to create these referral networks?
Yeah, so from top of funnel perspective, we try to do like the brand education marketing on behalf of the franchise owners, but we have a pretty comprehensive playbook that explains, grassroots marketing, local B2B relationships are so important. We tell all of our owners, all of our studios are located in strip centers, and we say, how are you working with your neighbors? And, whether it's a restaurant or another personal service company or a boutique fitness or whatever it is, we don't really compete with any of those. We're additive and complementary. And so it's really about explaining to our owners how to create those relationships, how to foster them and make them mutually beneficial, right? How can you use stuff in trade? How can you offer sessions to a partner business in exchange for access to their database to co-market some emails or do events together? I think that we really focus on giving a playbook that is robust and comprehensive that our local owners can apply regardless of the business, whether it is a chiropractor or a physical therapist or a gym or a smoothie shop or anything in between.
You've also stated that Stretch Zone's target demographic is virtually limitless, ranging from professional athletes to desk-bound remote workers to seniors dealing with sciatica. When your product is for everyone, sometimes the allure of targeting everybody can be pretty strong. How do you prevent your marketing message from becoming too broad, watered down, or generic? And how do you help your franchisees drill down on certain affinities that might have a higher propensity than the general population?
Yeah, if you speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. And so I think that we try to have specific messaging for an older population or retirees versus elite athletes. I think we target that differently. And also a lot of that's community driven, right? In South Florida, we're based in South Florida. Some of our, locations here are very heavily influenced by snowbirds, right? People that are seasonal 6 months a year here, then go up north. And so we make sure that we're speaking to the people that are actually here in our markets. And, that's one of the blessings of the digital targeting, right? Is that we can talk to pretty much exactly who we want to talk to with that specific message. And then we just kind of leave the broad stuff, the radio, the TV, wherever we have pretty much outdoor advertising to be brand awareness and educational. Because if you don't have sciatica pain, you're not going to respond to an ad about sciatica pain, right? And so it's really blending that top level education with that localized targeting that we can based on demographics that the digital ads provide to us.
So Stretch Zone is expanding past domestic borders, as we mentioned, into new international markets. You're launching a new custom app infrastructure. Looking down the road, how are you going to protect the core, intimate, one-on-one human connection of the 30-minute stretch that you mentioned as the brand scales across borders and digital realms?
Yeah, I think that we try to stay really focused on our bread and butter. Like, this is what we're good at. And I think that where a lot of brands and just marketing specifically, there's always a shiny new toy and a shiny new ball. And if you get distracted, I call it the squirrel. Like, stop going to chase something random. Stay focused on what we're good at. Let's stay really focused on that. And then I think as the brand evolves and grows, perhaps there'll be additive things that we can bring to market. Right now, it's our one service only. But I think that as we expand internationally as well, different markets have different cultural things, have different standards and norms. And so we will have to evolve the brand to meet the consumer where they are in those new markets. We don't have any others than right now. We've got some stores in the Toronto area in Canada, very similar to how we run them here in the States. So as the brand evolves, though, we'll have to tackle that as we get to it. We've had different opportunities to be international in different countries over the years and have been really selective about who we've moved forward with and who we haven't, because we don't want to just cash a check and sell a store to do it. We want to make sure that the brand is represented really well internationally as a fairly nuanced and new concept. And we want somebody that's going to do the brand justice as it grows internationally. So we've been very selective with our international expansion kind of focus and partners. And I think for now too, also staying really good at what we're good at. If you become a jack of all trades, master of none, it really dilutes the product, right? So there's other brands where you can go and get everything you listed before, one-stop shop. You can get your cryo, your red light, your stretching, your chiro, your injection of something all in one place, and maybe convenient for your commute. I don't know that any of them are done exceedingly well, right?
Yeah.
Try to stay focused on what we do and do it well.
That's awesome. Well, I've been a category curious consumer myself for a little while here, so I'm excited to learn more about your brand and specifically the benefits, and definitely going to reignite my flame for going and checking out your Encinitas location. So
You
appreciate you
should.
spending some time with us today. I'm definitely excited to check it out. If folks at home want to follow along with your thought leadership and thinking and or learn more about Stretch Zone, where would you like to send the audience to tune in?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with anybody. And for Stretch Zone, head to stretchzone.com and find a location near you. First Stretch is free, no obligation. Just sign up and experience it yourself. I implore you to do the same. The team at Encinitas is fantastic. You'll have a great experience, I'm sure of it.
I'm excited. Well, thanks, Lindsey. Appreciate you coming on and spending some time with the audience today. And for those of you at home, if you're watching the show for the first time, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening, an honest review on whatever podcast platform you might be listening on is how we find a larger audience organically. So don't forget to do that. And if there's somebody out there, maybe a wellness curious person who likes to check out these types of services, or maybe somebody who's been experiencing some health consequences that some of the things that we talked about today might help them, or maybe one of those entrepreneurs that maybe would be interested in a franchising opportunity or learning more about the business model, don't forget to share the show. And with that, Lindsey, I will wish you a great day. Appreciate you spending some time with our audience today.
Thanks for having me. Great.